When I was sent to the state penitentiary, I was ordered into protective custody segregation because of death threats against my life. I spent the first 6 years in solitary confinement. After my conviction, my wife left me. She took our newborn son and went back home with her parents to another state. I never saw him again, and he grew up thinking I was a heinous monster. During my 45 years in prison, I never stopped trying to get a review and allow me to show my innocence. The writs were always denied on some procedural error or technicalities. I even had to fight to get the DNA tested.
Marvin Leon Grimm Jr. was wrongfully found guilty on 3 charges, and in May of 1976, he was given a life sentence with the possibility of parole. Here's what happened, according to the Innocence Project. On November 22nd, Richmond, Virginia, a 3-year-old boy was reported missing by his mother at 2:40 p.m. The mother claimed to have last seen her son, referred to as CH, around 1:30 p.m., about 50 minutes prior to reporting him missing. Police arrived at 2:45 p.m. looking for the family's apartment and knocked on Marvin Grimm Jr.'s door, who lived across the hall from the family. A massive search ensued, and on November 26, 1975, the boy was found dead in the James River. Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Marcela Fierro concluded that the cause of death was asphyxia prior to being in the river. She also stated there was mucus in his throat, and that a microscopic analysis revealed the presence of spermatozoa. The toxicology report stated there was a presence of alcohol, acetaminophen, probably not saying that correctly, and I'm probably going to butcher this one as well, chlorzoxazone. Good enough. Marvin Grimm Jr. was getting off a 9-hour shift when police picked him up at 4:45 p.m., brought him to the station, and interrogated him until 9:10 p.m. without a break, when they finally read him his Miranda rights. The police were suspicious of Marvin because of 2 arguments he had with CH's father, and CH's mother told the police that she found his actions odd. Marvin Grimm Jr. also claimed the police had threatened him with the death penalty, even though it would not have applied in this situation, and the National Registry of Exonerations stated they performed 2 polygraph examinations during the interrogation. It was at 11 p.m. when police claimed Marvin had told them what occurred. The officers left with Marvin and had him show them the route he took when CH disappeared and returned to the station sometime before 2:20 a.m. This because 2:20 a.m. is when the tape recorder was finally turned on, and Marvin Grimm provided a statement. Like many in this situation, the police guided Marvin with leading questions, and Grimm said he left the apartment to go get food and saw CH outside when he came back. Upon returning home, Marvin Grimm turned on the TV, and Marvin said he blacked out at some point, went to the laundry building in the apartment complex where he saw CH, who then asked Marvin for a ride to the convenience store. Keep in mind, he was only 3 years old. Marvin Grimm told the police that he forced a sexual assault on him in the parking lot. Afterward, he claimed to have wrapped the boy in his pea coat, drove to the river, and tossed him into the water while unfurling his coat. He also said he tore his shoe slipping by the river, but then drove home and participated in the search for CH. Marvin Grimm was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, sodomy, and abduction with intent to defile on December 7, 1975. The police collected materials from Marvin's apartment, such as his shoes and pea coat, a towel, and several hairs from his car. The evidence was sent to the Virginia Division of Forensic Science, and it was analyzed by Mary Jane Burton. March 10, 1976, in the Richmond City Circuit Court, Marvin Grimm pled guilty to the charges, and an evidentiary hearing was scheduled for 5 days later. The Innocence Project has reported that 26% of exonerees accepted a guilty plea despite being innocent, and a lot of times this has to do with the fact that there's the threat of death or the threat of life in prison, so a lot of people feel they have no way out. In addition to the detective recounting Marvin's confession, Miss Burton, the forensic scientist, said 3 hairs found in his car and a child's sock in the car were consistent with CH's hair. She said they were not Mr. Grimm's hair. She also said the 4 hairs found on his pea coat were not his but were consistent with CH's hair. Miss Burton stated that she tested the towel found in Marvin's car as well as the pharynx, epiglottis, esophagus, nasal passage, and oral cavity during the autopsy. Her serology report, dated March 12, 1975, stated that blood type O was found and Marvin was actually type A, but this was never addressed to the defense. A stain that was tested from the towel was claimed to have indicated the presence of seminal fluid. The medical examiner, Dr. Marcela Fierro, testified to her autopsy results, stating there was a presence of spermatozoa and a, quote, thick white gelatinate material found in the boy's mouth. Marvin Grimm Jr. was found guilty of the 3 charges in May of 1976 and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Many years passed with Marvin Grimm Jr. locked away, but in March 1989, he filed a petition for DNA testing. This is pretty early for DNA testing still. Although he was denied, he petitioned for testing again in '91, this time with representation. After 12 years had passed, Marvin Grimm filed a petition for a writ of actual innocence at the end of 2003. And this was based on results that testing excluded him as the source of the biological evidence found in CH's throat and excluded CH as the source of hairs that were found on Marvin's peacoat. The petition was denied by the Supreme Court of Virginia in May of 2004. The court claimed that the petition was filed too late and that many of the details of Marvin's confession were confirmed by the police. Marvin Grimm filed yet another petition for a writ of actual innocence in 2012, the basis being that the DNA testing of the hairs that excluded CH and the swab smears from CH's mouth, throat, and nose excluded him. Yet again, the petition was dismissed because of his guilty plea, confession, and because it was found that forensic reports were inconclusive as to 2 of the hairs that were found, and no DNA profile could be obtained from some of the pharynx, esophagus, and oral swabs due to an insufficient amount of DNA. In 2017, Marvin Grimm petitioned Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe for a pardon, but he did not receive it. And finally, on April 3, 2020, Marvin Grimm Jr. was released on parole, but unfortunately, he had to register as a sex offender and was monitored with an ankle bracelet. October 2021, Marvin Grimm filed a post-conviction motion to get the evidence retested by mitotyping technologies, and that was granted. Back in 2012, the hairs were tested and excluded CH from all but 2 hairs, but those 2 were inconclusive. The mitotyping technologies testing was done in 2023, and it excluded CH from all the hairs collected, including the 2 that were originally inconclusive. 7 hairs were found to have 7 different DNA profiles. Therefore, this excluded Marvin Grimm as a source of any biological material on the slides from CH. Testing revealed there was no sperm found in the boy's throat, along with the towel Miss Burton claimed had semen, which was actually negative for seminal fluid. A petition for a writ of actual innocence was filed again in April 2023, citing the test results and the reports from Professor Richard Leo, a false confessions expert, and Dr. Jeffrey Brent, a toxicology expert. It was concluded that Marvin Grimm's confession was false for multiple reasons, one major one being that his account of the events didn't line up with the evidence, and that police provided him details when he was unable to do so himself. Dr. Brent reported that CH had somehow ingested the alcohol and muscle relaxants at least 90 to 150 minutes prior to his death. This interfered with the timeline of events because Marvin Grimm had been within his apartment within 75 minutes of CH being last seen. Additionally, the National Registry of Exonerations states that testing was performed on Marvin's shoe along with soil and leaves from the river. The results showed no soil or anything from the river to be present on his shoes, which was never disclosed to his defense. It was also stated that Grimm claimed to have torn his shoe while tossing the boy into the river, but his co-workers corroborated that he tore it at work. On June 18, 2024, it was ruled by the Virginia Court of Appeals that Marvin Grimm Jr. is innocent, and he was finally exonerated after spending 45 years wrongfully imprisoned. From the National Registry of Exonerations, the Virginia General Assembly agreed to pay Marvin Grimm Jr. $5.8 million in compensation, and the City of Richmond was required to match that, resulting in a total of $11.6 million in compensation.